In this screencast, I'll be showing my session plan for a netball session for 19 to 22-year-olds as beginners. My student number is currently on screen. At this point in the lesson, I'll make sure that everyone is present and make sure everyone knows the fire alarm meeting point is, where the fire exits are, and go through other health and safety areas which need to be covered before the lesson starts, as well as making sure everyone is in correct kit, long hair tied back and jewellery is off. I'll write these lesson objectives on the whiteboard before the lesson starts, so the students come into the room and then they'll be able to see and understand what the session is about. They can refer back to it if they need to. The learning objectives I've chosen are to be able to make a shot with the correct shooting technique and be able to make a goal whilst using good footwork, and to be able to use quick feet and understand the rules of footwork. In this session, we will be working on footwork and shooting. Before I go into the warm-up, I'll make sure every student understands what the learning objectives mean and would give a demonstration, and I'll give a demonstration so they know what they are working towards. I would also give the students a worksheet with a step-by-step instruction and photos of demonstrations which they can refer back to if they want, as well as the learning objectives will be on the sheet for them as well. I have left 5 minutes for the session to complete all of this. Next, I'll introduce the warm-up. For this, we will be playing a game of Spider-Man tag. There will be a Spider-Man, a Captain America, and everyone else taking part would be known as the citizens of New York. Spider-Man will have a bib to throw at the citizens to make them freeze. Captain America will then have to try and unfreeze everyone by touching them with their shield, which will be a cone. If Captain America gets touched by Spider-Man's web, they are stuck, and Spider-Man will have 30 seconds to capture as many citizens as they can. Whilst this all goes on, I'll be shouting out and demonstrating different stretches to perform. At this point, Spider-Man and Captain America can't freeze any citizens or help any citizens to keep the game fair. Halfway through, if all the students are getting along okay with the stretching and tagging, I'll introduce a netball. I've given this task 5 minutes at this point that I think they'll be tired out, warmed up and ready to exercise. I've chosen this activity as it's fun, practical and not your average warm-up. It gets the students' hearts racing and warming up their muscles as well as stretching them. I also wanted to see their interpretation of netball footwork so I know where and how everyone performs a movement whilst catching the netball, which will be going around. If this is too hard, I'll keep it so they continue to stretch as a game goes on and not introduce the netball. The activities which I have chosen are the figure of 8 drill, pivot drill, hot shots and target practice. For these, I'll make a circuit going around the room, therefore we get more done in the time allowed, which for this session will be 1 hour. As a coach, I'll pick 4 team captains and everyone else can get into a circle, pick a number from 1 to however many students I have, and make the pickings of the team. This is just to make the pickings of the teams fair. So if there are 10 students, the picking numbers will be 1 to 10. The captains would then pick the numbers till everyone is in a team. After the teams have been picked, I'll assign each team to a station and rotate them after 5 minutes. This includes the rotation time as well. Station 1 would be the figure of 8 drill. For this one, students will need 2 cones to put them horizontally about shoulder width apart. Then they will have to make a figure of 8 with their feet whilst moving around the cones. The faster the students go, the faster they'll learn about footwork and how to move fast in a game situation. This is to help them understand how footwork needs to be used during a game and how fast and sharp the movement needs to be. Station 2 is a pivot drill. This will consist of 2 people either side of the cones, about 5 metres away. One side will start with the ball and the other would run. For example, side A would start with the ball, so side B would run into the middle, receive the ball, pass it back to their partner, so inside B, and then run to the other side. This will then carry on. This will help the students understand how footwork will be used in the game situation and how far realistically they'll have to throw the ball to get to the other team member. This also demonstrates different techniques such as throws and passes they can use in a game situation. Section 3 is called Hot Shots. This station would be all the students in the team trying to score a goal by getting the ball through the hoop, and whoever misses first is out. And it keeps on going until there is a winner. The people who are out can also go onto a different hoop and do the game again. This will then help them understand how tall the hoop is and learn the techniques of shooting before the game starts. Station 4 is target practice. At this station, the students will have an outline of 3 boxes on the wall. They'll stand behind the cones and they'll have to aim at the wall so the ball bounces off into the box and then comes back to them. Each box will have a different size to make it harder. Each student will need to take turns for this to be able to work. The biggest box would be 1 point, medium box would be 2 points, and the smallest box would be 3. If they manage to catch the ball once it bounces off the wall, they will add an additional 1 point to their score. This will teach the students how high the net is and how hard and accurate to throw the ball to be able to score the goal. For the cool down, I'll teach them a game called Traffic Light. In this light, you will have 3 cones, red, yellow and green, and you will name 5 gears. Gear 1 will be lunges, Gear 2 will be an arm cross stretch, Gear 3 will be toe touches times 4, Gear 4 will be shoe the chicken stretch, and Gear 5 will be arm behind the head stretch. If I hold up a red cone, this means stop. If I hold up a yellow cone, it means like slow and walk. If I hold up a green cone, it means run and you have to go fast. So if I'm currently holding up a yellow cone and say gear 3, the students will have to do 4 toe touches and then carry on. So this enables them to be able to focus on everything, such as the gear I'm shouting and what cone I'm holding up. And it also helps them with their observation, which they'll also need in a game situation. So throughout the session, I'll be using different types of teaching approaches, such as laissez-faire, autocratic and democratic. For this example, when explaining the task, I'll use the autocratic approach, as this is telling the students what they're going to do and they have no choice. However, I'll also use a democratic approach, as at the end of explaining, I'll ask if anyone wants me to go over anything. Soon after, once everyone goes to their stations, I'll use a laissez-faire approach. So I'll be walking around, seeing how everyone reacts to the given tasks, and see if they also need any help. This theory was suggested by Woods B in 1998. So to show differentiation, I would make sure everyone's getting on okay with the task. If it's too hard, I'll make it easier for them. So such as on the hot shots, for the main activity, I'll move the performer closer if it's too easy, or I'll move them away if it's too hard, as this allows more reaction time. After I finish explaining everything every time, I'll make sure to ask if everyone understands the given task, so if there is any questions they can be answered at the end. Throughout the session, I'll use different teaching resources, such as whiteboards to write the learning objectives down to be referred to, pieces of paper with demonstration photos, learning objectives, and a step-by-step instruction. And I'll also use the use of demonstrations in real person. These combined will help the learners understand and remember what they are meant to be doing and completing. There's also different learning capabilities or styles which need to be addressed. These are cognitive, associative, and autonomous. This is due to the fact that each performer is at their own level at each sport. Cognitive is when the performer is slow, inconsistent with the movement. This means that they aren't confident with the technique yet. Associative is when the performer's movements are more fluid, efficient, and reliable. This means that the performer is confident with the movement but still has flaws and isn't doing it perfectly just yet. This is where most of the students will be with netball footwork and shooting. Some shooting might be at cognitive level. Autonomous is when the movements are consistent, accurate, and effective. So they know the movement is automatically performed. This theory was suggested by Fitz and Posner in 1967. So different students and coaches choose different types of feedback strategies. These are positive, negative, and punishment. Positive feedback reinforces success whilst encouraging the individual. Negative feedback and punishment discourages the individual as immediate correction is to the mistake by the coach. So I've created a risk assessment for this specific lesson in the sports hall at the Taunton campus, which I'll show you on screen now. So risk assessments are there and they need to be completed to make sure that each person surrounding the area that the coach is coaching in is safe and a thorough plan has been planned out in case of any emergencies or accidents may occur. Risk assessments are also a very important part of the health and safety plan to make sure everyone keeps safe. They outline any hazards or risk which could happen, as well as how severe the accident would be. An example of this would be in netball, one of the players perhaps running into a goalpost. The coach would need to know how severe the injury is, so a concussion or just a bruise, and act immediately to get the correct medical procedure to be acted upon.